Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Nagel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support House Bill 5019, the Law Enforcement Body-Worn Camera Act, because I believe that it will provide more evidence for the courts, more evidence for the press, and more evidence for the common public. Equipping law enforcement officers with body-worn cameras will provide evidence via video and audio recordings of the incidents that could be vital in court cases to determine someone's innocence or guilt. These recordings will also provide more evidence for the press as they piece together and explain to others what is happening and their opinions on it. This evidence also helps the common folk who are trying to understand and learn what is going on around them, and if they should take any actions based on this information. In conclusion, I urge my fellow House members to vote in favor of House Bill 5019, as it will provide important information and keep people informed about what is going on around them, so that they can make better decisions based on it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. The opposing caucus may now present their opposing arguments. Representatives Hassing, Representative McNeil, Representative Wilson, please find a microphone. Representative Hassing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I stand here in opposition to House Bill 5019, the Law Enforcement Body-Worn Camera Act. This bill should not be supported for several reasons. Firstly, the cameras may reveal personal information. For example, if the officers are in a patrol car and the subject of family and friends comes up in conversation, any person that comes in contact with these officers can access that conversation. These people can then search up the person or persons mentioned on a social media platform or the internet, then proceed to stalk or abuse above-mentioned persons. Police officers often encounter people who threaten to kill their families. I am sure that you would not want your family's information public for potential killing. In addition, these cameras may not perform as well in a physical alteration. If the power button on the camera gets pressed in this circumstance, the camera will turn off. These cameras do not make a noise when powering off, so the officer will not know if and when they are recording.
Representative, your time is up.
I urge that you would vote no in opposition to this bill to protect your privacy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative McNeil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am here standing against House Bill number 5019. Your privacy and safety are very important. I am positive that when an officer is on duty, you do not want your personal information being recorded or possibly leaked. With the Law Enforcement Body-Worn Camera Act, not only is your personal information being recorded, but it's also being saved. That is only the beginning of the flaws of this act. The videos taken with the body-worn cameras take up a significant amount of data to be stored, and the price of data and storage, in addition to the price of the cameras themselves, can be pretty costly. The bill states that individual law enforcement agencies may ask the Michigan State Police to cover reasonable costs. However, the extent of these costs are unclear. I am certain that none of you want our state police funds to take a significant negative impact on their funds because of these poorly sized cameras. Not only are these cameras made with bad video quality, but their battery life is decently short. These batteries can lose 10% every 1.5 hours. In addition, if an officer using a body-worn camera gets into a fight, the camera can be possibly turned off by mistake, leaving the officer with what could be almost no footage for that time. Representative, your time is up. With all that being said, this act is an invasion of your privacy and could potentially lead respectable officers in bad situations in court. I urge you, the members of the House, to vote no on House Bill number 5019. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Wilson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are many consequences to House Bill 5019. As Representative Hassey once stated, if the body camera is always recording, as stated on page 2, line 24 and 25 of the bill, then if the conversation of family comes up, then someone that goes against the officer, someone who has stood to kill the officer's entire family, could find information, pull that information, and then find the entire family, stalk them, or even kill them. This bill also has consequences as to HIPAA. if the officer is inside of a hospital while the camera is recording video and audio, they can pick up a confidential conversation between a doctor and a patient, such as, for example, when cops are on a mental health call or with a, I don't know the name of the person, but like mental health calls. When they are on a mental health call, they can overhear a conversation between a therapist or a person like that and the patient, which could be highly confidential information that's not revealed to the public. Section 8 of this bill also states if a law enforcement agency cannot provide information like a recording that is requested by the court of law that can be mandated by it, then the officer is presumed false, and then the video footage does not corroborate with what the officer says, and they presume that it corroborates with what the defendant says. So, in an example, when an officer is in a physical altercation or a fight with a suspect, the suspect could press against the officer's body camera for 2 seconds and turn it off, disabling it, leading to anything from there on out till the camera is turned back on to be presumed in the defendant's favor. This bill is not good, no. There needs to be more done to this bill for it to be good. It cannot endanger only the officers, but it could endanger the safety of the public and patients of hospitals.
Representative Taylor, sorry.
Remember, vote early, vote often, and a vote for House Bill 5019 is a vote completely wasted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. At this point, the sponsors may now present the rebuttal arguments. Representative McKendrick, you have the floor. Representative, that microphone is reserved for the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to my opponent's statements about the officer's knowledge of his recording, I would like to point out that virtually all cameras notified in some way, whether visually or sonically, that they were recording data. Additionally, an officer knows the age of to record. Also, the bill never specifies what kind of camera is to be used, and so my opponents have made assumptions about the type of camera. The estimated budget for the police officer's camera is $2,000, and with this money, it can be assured that the best and most reliable cameras will be selected for their use. In response to my opponent's statements about the privacy of police officers, under Section 3.3, officers can turn off recordings during a personal conversation, ensuring that their private information will be kept. In response to my opponent's questions about the threatening of the right to privacy, I stated in Section 6, subsection 2, recordings are not made available to the general public without the consent of individuals filmed, those with property harmed, or the parents, guardians, or lawyers of those mentioned if necessary. This will ensure that your personal data will be kept safe from the general public. In response to my opponent's questions about the financial impact of this bill, while the exact amount of cost is not explicitly stated, estimated expenses range from $2 to $4 million a year. While at first this amount may seem high, however, the Michigan Police states, the Michigan State Police's current budget is $575.3 million, according to their own website. The cost of the body cameras is but a small fraction of the budget, and it will provide enormous benefits. In response to my opponent's statements about the length of the recordings, this bill only allows for the extension of recordings that fit their characteristics stated in subsection 5. These aren't everyday recordings. They are evidence for crimes and usage of force applicable to trials. Since many trials can take place years after an incident, These special recordings will be vital to the proceedings and our courts.
Representative, your time has expired.
Thus, I implore this House to vote yes for House Bill number 5019. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative. Debate is now open for supporting and opposing arguments from the other caucuses. Representatives Emerson and Representatives Green, please find the microphone. Representative Emerson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am speaking against House Bill 5019 on behalf of my colleagues at Adams Green. Though this bill has good intentions, this piece of legislation that was put together was not cohesively, causing there to be many loopholes in which the privacy of individuals could be thwarted. According to this bill, there is almost no reason why law enforcement would not keep the film for an extended amount of time. This is just one of the reasons why I am voting no on House Bill 5019, and I urge all of you to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Green, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in sponsor of House Bill 5019. This bill gives law enforcement body cameras that record at all times, meaning an event happening in which more than one part or opinion is mentioned, the body camera will correct and keep the officers and civilians in safe hands. That's why you should vote aye for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The bill is now on its third reading. All those in favor of passing the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. All those opposed to the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? The clerk will give the count.
Mr. Speaker, there are 28 yes votes and 18 no votes.
The bill, receiving a sufficient number of votes, is passed.
Mr. Speaker, I move we take up item number 2 on the calendar, HB 4006.
The clerk will read.
House Bill number 4006. A bill to require wireless carriers to provide device locations for emergencies upon the request of law enforcement. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill is now open for debate. Sponsors of the bill may present their opening arguments. Representatives Flory, Representatives Handy, Representative Ganowit, and Representative Byrne. Please find the microphone. Representative Flory, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand in front of you and my fellow representatives speak in support of House Bill 4006. This bill allows for a wireless carrier to provide location information on a wireless device to a law enforcement officer upon request in an emergency. As defined by the bill, an emergency is a situation involving imminent risk of death or serious physical harm to the user of the wireless device carrier. According to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons Database, over 600,000 people go missing each year in the United States only. This bill has the potential to save hundreds of thousands of lives across the nation with the passing of this bill.
Not only will searches become more efficient, but they will also be able to carry it out much easier. The future of our youth and all of our generations is bright, and we cannot take the future of our possibility and allow this horrible epidemic to continue in our country. Representatives, I urge you to take a clear decision and vote yay for cell phones and emergencies to save our people.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Handy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have huge problems in our country today, one of which is missing children and other individuals. Over 100 individuals can go missing in one day. If you are currently unaffected by this problem, the reality is that you may soon be. This is a reality that we cannot ignore. This bill will provide children and other individuals that go missing to be found in a quicker and more efficient way, hopefully before serious harm can happen to them. This bill would provide a way for this to be done by allowing law enforcement officers to be able to use the user's phones company to have their information and get where their location is so that they can figure out where they are and hopefully before incredible harm or imminent death is happening. The companies would be required to give this location. Together, we can minimize the damage that is mentally and physically provided to these individuals by being captured. Together, we can save lives. Together, we can vote for Bill 4006. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Janis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am in support of Bill number 4006, Cell Phones in Emergencies. If passed, this bill has the potential to save lives. This bill can help find, locate, and rescue children who are lost, kidnapped, or in trouble. The purpose of this bill is to give law enforcement officers the ability to locate a person's location in an emergency. Every day, hundreds of children are kidnapped, taken from their families, and sometimes never seen again. According to the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, about 936 kidnappings happen in a year. In just Michigan alone, 936. If passed, this bill can save lives. This bill has the potential to keep the children of Michigan safe from vile and horrendous situations. Children can be saved. People can be rescued. I implore you, members of the House, to vote in support for Bill number 4006, Cell Phones in Emergency, to save lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Byrne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I am sponsoring House Bill 4006, Cell Phones in Emergencies. This bill can save countless lives because upon request of law enforcement, they can receive the wireless devices info so they can track you, thus possibly saving you from dying. Now, you may think this bill is in violation of the Fourth Amendment rights, but when you are in a life or death situation, are you really going to worry about your privacy? Me personally, no. I'd be wanting to be saved and away from the kidnapper or killer. Besides, because this would be considered an emergency, it would also be a probable cause, so there would be no need for a warrant. There is a fine for a cop if this is used for personal gain. That fine being 93 days in prison or a $500 fine, or both. And that is why I believe you should vote yes on House Bill 4006. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. The opposing caucus may now present the opposing arguments. Representatives Green, Representatives Hayes, please find the microphone. Representative Green, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to House Bill. I read the wrong part of my thing. Sorry. House Bill 4006, Cell Phones Emergency. House Bill 4006 is where a law enforcement officer who uses the provisions of the bill to request access or use or disclose location of a device or information for personal use or gain would be guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment for not more than 93 days, or, sadly, these criminals do have a choice, less than $500. This bill invades the Fourth Amendment and invades the warrant sense because a warrant needs to go through the proper court system for it to be valid. This bill states that if this bill is used in personal gain, it could be avoided by less than $500, also not stating that the officer will be taken off the force. In conclusion, this bill invades the privacy of your life, your phone, and your safety. That is why you should vote nay for House Bill 4006. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Hayes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am opposing Bill 4006.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my problem. Your Honor, this House Representative is not important.
All right, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. I'm opposing Bill 4006. Let me just tell you about an app called Life360. Life360 is a location sharing app that helps families and friends stay connected and safe. It provides real-time location updates, emergency alerts, and communication. Also, this app is government approved and it's free to use. Why should we break the Fourth Amendment and pass this bill if we already have a solution that keeps your privacy as well? This app is also faster than the calling matter police. Explaining what happens to the police and getting, let's say, a phone company getting a ping. With this app, you can easily open and see where your kid is. Another point I want to talk about is a mode called airplane mode. Airplane mode is a feature that disables all wireless connections, such as GPS, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. This can prevent your device from being pinged. Airplane mode doesn't make your phone signal disappear, but it will not update your location. Let's say I'm in Ann Arbor and I want to kidnap someone. I can leave my phone in my house, which makes it stay there while I go to, let's say, Lansing. They will think I'm still at my house, which actually provides an alibi for the situation. There is also legal concern about officials gathering phone data on people who have no connection to the real crimes. It can be used against them for no reason. Cell phone pinging gives you anything beyond 500 meters for cellular devices, but Life360 can be accurate within 50 feet, 500 meters and 50 feet. Which one would you take? The most important thing about bills is that they're reliable, and this bill is not reliable. Do the right choice and vote nay. I oppose this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. At this point, the sponsors may now present the rebuttal arguments. Representative Evans and Representative Lennon, please find the microphone. Representative Evans, you have the floor. I'll remind the representative that station is reserved for the podium.
So, Life360 and airplane mode are things that at our Life360 is not everyone uses it, and it can just as easily be disabled. And however, it could be a plus onto it. Why not have both options at your disposal and not just one? And this bill if it can only help a couple people, that's still a couple people saved. It could also be used in more cases than kidnapping. Think about it. Look at criminal cases. Just look at where the phone was at that current time. Most criminals would not take their phone out, and especially this could target a bigger crime, and which require good communication, and because they would all have to have phones in order to have good communication, we could find them all and stop massive crime and organization. Sorry.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Lennon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Life360 can be disabled if the device is powered off. So, if they do have airplane mode on, the bill could still be helpful, seeing where the last location was. And 800,000 people are reported missing. every year. 99% of who are taken are killed after 24 hours. Would you rather have them be helped and saved, or have them be something worse happens to them? So this bill could be helpful to kidnappings itself. So I ask you to support on this bill.
Thank you, Representative. The debate is now open for supporting and opposing arguments from the other caucuses. Representatives Hasty and Representatives Connor, please find the microphone. Representatives Hasty, floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I will stand in opposition to House Bill 4006, Cell Phones in Emergencies. Do you want a random police officer from a law enforcement agency to be able to track you without a warrant? I should know. I believe that this is a breach of our privacy. Even if we are kidnapped, I still believe that I would not want people tracking me for less than $500 fine or only 93 days in jail. Please vote no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Connor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill provides an assistance to over 600,000 cases that happen every year. This bill saves lives by hastening the process of missing persons being found, therefore reducing the risk of harm to the missing person. I, Representative Connor, support this bill and urge other representatives to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The bill is now on third reading. All those in favor of passing the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. All those opposed to the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. Are there any exceptions? Thank you. You may be seated. The clerk will give the count.
Mr. Speaker, there are 13 yes votes, 32 no votes, and 1 abstention.
The bill receiving an insufficient number of votes is not passed. The House will stand to recess at the call of the chair for 10 minutes. At the call of the speaker for 10 minutes. The restrooms are in the cloakroom in the back. At this point, you may use them. At this point, you may also get your phone out to take some pictures and enjoy looking at the side of the chamber that very few people get the honor to see.
And it's like, and then I had to go to class, and your arms full. I was like,
The House will come to order. I will remind the members to use the podium sides to adjust the angle of the microphone. Do not grab the stem of the microphone.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up item 3 on the agenda for today, SB 991.
The clerk will read.
Senate Bill number 991, a bill to authorize access to and use of experimental treatments for patients with a terminal illness. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill is now open for debate. Sponsors of the bill may present their opening arguments. Representatives Perez, Representative Stockmeyer, Representative Saylor, Representative Good, please find a microphone. Representative Perez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have the privilege of presenting the bill SB 991, the right to try. Imagine being told that you have exhausted all treatment options, knowing that there are experimental therapies that could potentially improve your well-being. For many terminally ill patients, this is a heartbreaking reality. The Right to Try Act empowers these individuals to access investigational treatments that have passed phase 1 of FDA approval processes, offering them a fighting chance when time is running out. For this bill, patients must have co-signed consent from themselves and their physician, and have considered every available treatment and have a clear, concise notion of what the treatment is and does. With Bill 991, we can save lives and possibly gain information on drugs, devices, and biological products, which could save more lives in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Stockmeyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here today to sponsor SB 991, also known as the Right to Try Act. When a terminally ill patient is run out of FDA-approved treatments, they are given almost no legal methods to access treatments that have not gone through all of the FDA trials. Mind you, these trials may take over a decade to complete, leaving many without treatment options. The current system goes against the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Right to Try Act is the solution to this injustice. This act would give terminally ill patients the choice to request treatment options which have passed the first FDA trials, but have not yet been approved for market sale by the Food and Drug Administration. This means that the Right to Try Act preserves the patient's freedom to attempt possibly life-saving treatments. If you support a terminally ill patient's right to try possibly life-saving investigatory treatment options, I urge you to vote yes on SB 991. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Before the next representative gets in the gallery, I will remind you that please do not lean on the railing. If you wish to stand, you can, but don't lean on the railing. Representative Saylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am grateful to speak in front of this legislature. With the Right to Try bill in place, we would provide the terminally ill not solely another option, but hope for a better condition of life. This bill also promotes scientific advancements, despite positive, negative, or undetermined results on the patient. It provides valuable information. This could save many lives later, not just of terminal patients, but healthier patients as well. The bill also allows a terminal patient who is a minor, unconscious, or has mental instability to apply for this right with the permission of at least one guardian, one medical professional, and at least one eyewitness to ensure consent. This bill also protects patient safety. The physician is required to write an article with the best, worst, most likely, and all the rare outcomes within reason. If the patient does not understand technical terms, the physician is required to elaborate on any question the patient or guardian may have. So if you value the lives and the hope of the terminally ill, vote aye for Bill 991. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand before you all in strong support to Bill 991. Hope. What is that? What does it mean? Well, let me tell you. It is the desire accompanied by an expectation or belief in fulfillment. Hope. A strong word for some, others not so much. But for those who are on their deathbed, after being told they have no other option and so many other days left, hope is all they have. Bill 991, precisely one of these grand reasons why the sickly people have such a strong hope. Hope that these drugs could possibly save their life. Not only will this bill give these terminally ill people hope, but it will also help the many physicians and scientists who are diligently working on saving methods. And lastly, give the people their God-given right to choose, for the determination for life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Let's give our sisters and brothers these rightful choices the life they deserve. So I urge you deeply to vote yes to Bill 991. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. The opposing caucus may now present their opposing arguments. Representatives Beta, Representatives Rogers, Representatives Alexander, and Representative Smith, please find the microphone. Representative Beta, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come here to oppose the Right to Try Bill, SB 991, because I believe that in the state of mind these patients are in, they are most likely to have their life progress faster, taking these risky experimental drugs. These terminal ill patients know their life is coming to a close any day now, so they are desperately grabbing at any straw that can potentially prolong their life. If the patient comes across the drug prescribed by his or her physician, the patient is most likely to come from a desperate emotional standpoint rather than logical, meaning that their mind is most likely clouded with the thoughts of their incoming death, rather than thinking clearly about the possible risks and dangerous side effects that could possibly come from taking these drugs. Making this rational decision in such an emotional state can lead to consequences such as suffering a quicker and insufferable death that could be prevented if the drug wasn't taken. The observed success rate between 1991 to 2015, 798 cases were proven 50% successful in passing phase 2. But between 2016 and 2020, the success rate decreased to 29 to 34%. And by being in such an emotional state, there is no way the patient can fully grasp the concept of what they are doing that can potentially make their condition worse. Representatives, I hope I persuaded you to vote nay to the Right to Try Bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Rogers, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my opinion, and the opinion of my caucus, that Bill 991, Right to Try, should not be passed, because it gives physicians the opportunity to sell patients ineffective placebo drugs. Furthermore, the bill does not include any precautions against this. As my fellow representative said, these patients are likely in a state of desperation and will try anything to prolong their life. According to a study done at the University of Cincinnati, approximately 70% of drugs that pass FDA phase 1 fail phase 2 and are discontinued. Out of the 30% of drugs that pass phase 2, even less pass phase 3. Is this small chance of success worth the possibility? Is this small chance of success worth the possibility of physicians manipulating terminal patients? Some would argue that because physicians take an oath to protect and help their patients, that the risk of corruption is limited. I would argue, however, that human history proves that the human condition of greed and deceit is a strong enough force to overcome any oath. And so I argue that this bill should not be passed because of the risk of corruption in positions. I urge you to vote nay on Bill 991, right to try. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Alexander, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm opposing the Bill 991, right to try. While the intention behind the right to try bill is compassionate, it ultimately prioritizes desperation over caution, leaving vulnerable patients at risk of exploitation and harm. By bypassing FDA oversight, we sacrifice the inhumane scientific testing that ensures safety and the efficiency, potentially leading to the weakening of the FDA's ability to protect public health. This bill causes false hope, which relates to the patients as they have very little chances of surviving. This also takes advantage of patients by their financial needs from the corrupt companies. So finally, let's protect our public health and rely on science, not desperation. I would strongly agree that you should vote nay for the opposing bill 991. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'll be discussing the main reason why I feel I should be opposing the bill for right to try SB 991. I feel because after reading over the bill before, I find it sickening that there is no guaranteed financial aid to a terminally ill patient and manufacturers. I conclude, as my former caucus members have already stated, the patient must be stressed out and desperate to find a cure to their illness. I feel that it's also just valid to place this upon them, as this is their last resort, meaning if they don't get this, they'll most likely die. And yes, although in some instances the patient's insurance company could cover it, not every patient will be able to get insurance to cover their treatment, as all cases differ with each patient. Another point I'd like to make is I think it's quite unjust to make the patient possibly pay for their treatment, and depending on the company, it might take weeks, even months. We don't know how much longer this patient has. While with someone who is more wealthy, they could be most likely paid off on the spot, giving them the treatment as soon as they can. I believe that the company or manufacturer is giving the terminally ill patient the drug should cover it for every patient, no matter the case. I hope you all can understand my standing on this bill. I urge you all to vote nay on Bill 991. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. The sponsors will now present the rebuttal arguments. Representative Miller, Representative Umberger, you have. Please find a microphone. Representative Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of our opposition's main points was that the state of mind of the patients could potentially be not the greatest, I guess. And I would like to say that these patients have no other hope. This is their last chance. Shouldn't we at least give them some hope? Shouldn't they be able to try? As far as the financial aid point goes, there is no guarantee in the bill that the companies are going to charge patients, and there are potentially opportunities for the insurance companies to help pay some of that debt. Furthermore, the family of the patients are not responsible for any debt after the patient is deceased. I implore you, think of your friends, family, loved ones, and ask yourself, would you strip away their last hope? Wouldn't you do anything that you possibly could for them? This is why we must give patients who are terminally ill the choice of experimental treatments. Vote for Bill 909. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Umberger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am standing in support of SB 991, and I would like to respond to some of the arguments presented by the Washington Freedom Caucus. They said that sometimes the patients may be desperate. However, the physician clearly explains to the patient exactly the best, worst, and best things that could happen to them. Also, they said that the rigorous FDA trials might become less rigorous by the point of this bill. However, the FDA does not change their trials at all with this bill. Also, they said that it could put strain on the the terminally ill patient. But life is invaluable, so they should be willing to pay whatever they need to in order to save their life. The Right to Try Act needs to be passed so we can start saving patient uses this bill, they are well informed, the family is protected, and all potential effects are described to them. This is the only hope for the patients. Remember, these patients are terminally ill, and this gives them a chance at survival. So the question is, why wouldn't you let them try? Please vote yes to Bill 991 and save lives today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. The debate is now open for supporting and opposing arguments from the other caucuses. Representative Emerson and Representative Ammons, would you please slide microphone? And Representative Emerson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in support of my colleagues at Washington Green and urge you to vote no on Senate Bill 991, Right to Try. This bill would encourage medical professionals to take advantage of the terminally ill for their own personal gain. We also must remember that the patients affected by this bill may jump at the chance to be healed without properly weighing out the costs. It would also place a large financial burden on the patients and their families. I implore you to vote no on this inhumane bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Ammons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I Representative Bill Ammons of Adams Green, speaking in support of Senate Bill 991. Allow me to paint your picture. You're trapped in a hole with no way out. You try climbing, jumping, yelling for help, but nothing works. You look around and find a rotting wood ladder. It's not guaranteed freedom, but it's hope. That's what Senate Bill 991 is. Hope for terminally ill patients. It offers experimental medicine to terminally ill patients as a last resort. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask that you vote yes to this bill and give hope to terminally ill patients.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Speaker, I make the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The bill is now on third reading. All those in favor of passing the bill, please stand. You may be seated. All those opposed to the bill, please stand. You may be seated. Are there any exceptions? You may be seated. The clerk will give the count.
All right, Mr. Speaker, there are 24 yes votes, 24 no votes, and 2 abstentions.
The bill receiving an insufficient number of votes is not passed. All right, members, at this time, we are going to take a break for lunch. Congratulations, you made it through the morning session. You all did wonderfully. We will have an opportunity to use the restroom, and then we will be gathering into our committees, and then we'll head down to lunch all en masse. I'm going to continue ripping because I see Mr. Cecil walking this way with a determined and fierce expression on his face. And when he arrives, I will then really push him in. But we are still in session, so you will kindly continue to remain at your desk and quiet until you rise. The Speaker recognizes Representative Cecil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned for lunch.
Do we have a second? Representative Stockmeyer, seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, we will adjourn for lunch.
All right, hold on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Chick-fil-A about to arrive for your eating pleasure. But first, we're going to take a group photo on the steps of the Capitol building. All right, now this will not be the front steps with the statue, correct? We will go to the west steps on the back side of the building. All right, so please gather together as your committees. Grab a group committee selfie if you want, and we will lead you out and down in a moment. Parents, guests, you're welcome to join us. We don't have food for you, but you are welcome to watch us eat Chick-fil-A. And we will be coming back to session at a time about an hour. 45 minutes to an hour. I left my schedule behind. So thank you very much. These young people did a wonderful job. Guys, please gather in your committees. Crew members, please gather your committees.
Make sure that you are wearing your name tag so that you can get back into the chamber. And if you want to bring your binder with you, you can leave your binder in the chamber as well.
Can I have the clerk back to the rostrum, please? Can I have the clerk report to the rostrum? Members, please return to your seats. Members, return to your seats, please. Actually, who brought this to my attention? Jace, where'd you go? Jace, please, we're going to come back to order. You're going to stand up and make an objection and ask for a recount, okay? Mr. Floor Leader, please bring the House will come to order. Is there a motion on the floor? We will have a recount, members. All you math whizzes out there, we had a split tie of 24 to 24 with 2 abstentions, which totals to 50 votes. We have 46 members present. We will be having a recount on the House bill, Senate Bill 991, the right to try. While the arguments are fresh in your mind. Yes? All right, yep. We will be doing a quick recount. The food's not quite here, so we will be doing a quick recount as soon as we have all members present. Can I have the clerk and the tellers just verify if we have any empty seats where there should be a member? All right. Can I have a crew member make sure that? Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all very much. This is more realistic than you realize. In the meantime, I'd like to remind you all what a privilege it is to be in this room and at these desks. These are the original desks of the Michigan House of Representatives. For nearly 150 years, this has been the seat of democracy, and it's seen a little bit of chaos, so our recount is nothing too abnormal. Trust me. I worked here for 5 years. Lots of chaos. We are going to, if this had not been such a close tie vote and we had just had an inaccurate number, I might entertain a voice vote at which point all those in favor would say aye, all those opposed would say nay, and based on that, we would listen and judge based on the voice vote. Now, sometimes voice votes are used just to move the process along quicker and hustle things along in real life, but here we take voice votes seriously. If you come back as a senator, you'll experience a lot of voice votes, and you actually will be trained to call for a division of the Senate. If there were any issues of division of the Senate, it means that you'll officially object to the vote that was taken, the voice vote, and ask for a record roll call vote, at which point we'll have everyone standing to be counted. In Senate as well, if you don't know this already, you can make amendments. How many of you wish you could have changed your bills this week? That there's something with it that would have made it better? Well, when you come back and do Senate, you get to do that. You get to make your bills better. And on top of that, we've entertained some new stuff with Senate this year where you get to write your own resolution calling for some kind of action or advocacy, an official message that can be sent either to the U.S. President or the federal Congress. But, Mr. Clerk, are all members present? Seeing all members present, we will entertain another vote on SB 991. SB 991, the right to try. All those in favor, please rise. All those in favor of SB 991, please rise. You may be seated. All those opposed, please rise. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? Two abstentions, you may be seated. The clerk will give the count.
Mr. Speaker, there are 22 yes votes and 22 no votes, 2 abstentions.
The bill, with an accurate vote and still an insufficient number of votes, is not adopted. All right, well done, members. Thank you for that. I wanted to ensure that we had an accurate count. Media is gathering. If I can get Washington, you're going to go to that corner. Washington crew members and Washington students, everyone stand up in Washington. Go to that corner, please. You see Miss Becca Bacon-Morgan in the back there. Everyone in Washington, go to that back corner. Who's in the front row? Is that Adams? Adams, gather in the center aisle here, right in front of the rostrum. And that leaves, of course, Jefferson, please gather in the center of the aisle towards the back by Miss Abigail Martin in the bright pink jacket. Now, the only bright pink jacket, but in the bright pink jacket. All right, thank you. With that, the House does formally stand at ease at the head of the chair. Please listen, everyone. We're going to be headed down for lunch here in just a moment, but we're going to take a photo first. All right, so please, if we have all our committees together, and Mr. Jonathan Moen can start leading the way downstairs. Thank you all. Please walk quietly, stay to the right-hand side, do not block the hallways. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm calling because I just received a message. I left a prescription refill for Trulicity 3. I was told that it's out of stock. Is there a time frame as to when it's going to be back in stock? Or? Okay, thank you.
I would assume that when they start picking their seats, you don't want to hear on sit, but they do try to hear a couple ones that we're here only council members and certain
man.
the restroom. Members, if you need to use the restroom, do so now. Okay? Grab a photo, take the restroom, and we'll start in just a few minutes. Members, please take your seats. Members, to your seats, please.
Got
Mr. Clerk, can we just take a quick peek, make sure all members are accounted for? Alright, before we begin again, I'd just like to remind our guests in the gallery, first of all, if you're back for the first time this afternoon, thank you for joining us. If you're returning after lunch, we're so glad that you stayed. This is a slightly different schedule for us this Friday, but it gives the House their own space, the Senate their own space, and allows that. We actually made some pretty substantial changes to the Senate program this year to really enhance that track. So if you have a student in Senate, or you're just curious, feel free to stop over there. They're going to be debating and proposing the resolutions this afternoon that they wrote themselves, which is really, really exciting. A brand new portion of the track. We're waiting on just one member, and then we'll begin. Please remember, guests in the gallery, do not lean on the railing. Do not lean over the railing without touching it. That's a workaround that my 5-year-old would probably try to use. Please don't do that. Please do take photos, though. Put them online, share, tag us on Facebook or Instagram if you're really hip and cool. And we'd love to see those and help us spread the ministry through that way. A fun little clarifier that I've been trying to do lately is that we as a ministry, our organization is called the Student Statesmanship Institute, but this is the LEAD Summer Program. So please make sure that you refer to us, this is the LEAD Summer Program. We're trying to really build out this program, and we're excited. We have some affiliate states that are running programs as well, and we're very excited for what God's doing through the ministry. Students, well done this morning. Please remember, as you speak at the podium, do not touch the stem of the mic itself. You may, however, grab the podium, 2 hands at the bottom, and gently adjust it for your height, and I encourage you to adjust it for your height. If there are any of you who are still nervous as we come to the afternoon, remember to take a big breath, and your time will not begin until you speak. So the floor leader will not count you with that against you. All right. The House will come to order. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up item 4 on the calendar, House Bill 5751.
The clerk will read. House Bill number 5751, a bill to amend 1939 PA 288 entitled Probate Code of 1939. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill is now open for debate. The sponsor of the bill may present their opening arguments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support Bill 5751 because there is a big problem in our culture today. This is the problem of the legal abandonments of newborns. Babies are being left to die because the mother cannot handle personally turning in her baby into an authority. We need to save their lives and find another way to help mothers who are put into that situation. What we are proposing is a safe haven device, which is a sanitized, safe box that will allow mothers to leave their children without the long and painful process that would happen if they turn them into a hospital or fire station. Within 30 seconds of the box being closed with the baby inside, the silent alarm will be activated, and within 2 minutes, the baby will be retrieved and placed in proper care. I urge you to vote yes on Bill 5751.
Thank you, Representative Ryansky. You may be seated. Representative Wetsky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Representative Wetke, and I'll be giving you the solution to the problem. Babies are being illegally abandoned in dangerous places. This bill gives parents another safe option to anonymously abandon the baby who will be placed under safe supervision and care because of the safe haven device system. Bill number 5751 will meet specific sanitation standards held by hospital staff. In addition, there will be other procedures providing emergency care for newborn delivered to a safe haven device. It will also provide a controlled environment for the care and protection of the newborn. This change will help our society because precious baby lives who deserve to live and a better life with new parents. I urge you to vote yes on Bill number 5751. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wetsky. You may be seated. Representative Howland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we have shown you what the problem Bill 5751, the Safe Haven Device, solves. Now I would like to shed light on the benefits this bill will have on our state. This bill saves the lives of babies who would otherwise be abandoned on roadsides, doorsteps, and even in trash cans. It would also give the mothers who can't afford to support their child a sense of security, knowing that their baby is well taken care of. Another point I would like to make is it gives the parents options other than abortion, illegal abandonment, or putting their child up for adoption. Along with these, it gives the parents a sense of anonymity, allowing them to not to feel judged or shamed about giving up their child. Thank you for listening. I strongly urge you to vote for this bill, for Bill 5751, the Safe Haven device, for the safety of babies in Michigan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Wilson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill provides an anonymous option for mothers to anonymously surrender their children to the state. These boxes can be you can anonymously surrender your son to them because it's a better option for handing them over in person to hospital staff. That can be too much for most to handle. It can be a safer alternative than leaving a baby in the woods or airport trash cans, like some mothers unfortunately do. Safe haven devices are a tested, safe option that are all over the United States with over 140 boxes already in place over 16 states. I say we should make Michigan the 17th state to have these safe haven devices. Inside each box is a drawstring bag that has a brochure and some legal papers so the mother can put the child's information on that and send it over so they can avoid any allergies and stuff like that. These boxes are very safe and trustworthy method. Remember to vote yes for House Bill 5751, not for me, but for the future leaders of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. The opposing caucus may now present the opposing arguments. Will Representatives Ignikowski, Byram, and Glasgow please make their way to the nearest microphone? Representative Ignikowski, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am opposing Bill number 5751. In Section 8, line 17 through 18 states that they will make reasonable efforts to find the non-surrender parent within 28 days. This is not enough time for the police to find the parents thoroughly. We must take into account that the baby and the parents' lives matter. If a mother was in an abusive situation or kidnapped, she could be gone for multiple days at a time without knowing the deadline. We need to have thorough evidence and we need to make thorough evidence and we need to take the lives in account. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. I would like to remind the members of the House that if you must adjust your microphone, please adjust the podium and not the microphone itself. Representative Byram, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My fellow representatives, I am here to oppose Bill 5751, Safe Haven Devices. I'm specifically here to talk about the safety and well-being of the parents or parent. Imagine you are a parent and you put your baby in what you think is a safe environment, in a safe environment not long after this. What you think is a safe environment. Not long after this, you not long after this reality of what you have done eats away at you until you can't live with yourself or eventually kill yourself. Current law states that only biological parents can surrender an infant to the county. The infant must be surrendered to a non-duty employee who is in a hospital, fire department, or police station. The reason I bring this up is to say, what if the mother is physically harmed from giving birth, and instead of going to a doctor, police officer, or firefighter who is medically trained, instead she goes to a box, a created object, to place her baby. if she has gone to one of these trained professionals, they could identify and maybe care for a physical harm that she has gone to over giving birth. This, my fellow representatives, is why I urge you to vote no on House Bill 5, House Bill 5.
Thank you, Representative Byron. You may be seated. Representative Glasgow, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to oppose Bill number 575. The caucus supporting this bill are of the belief that enacting this bill will save many newborns' lives. However, this bill is all but littered with flaws that by themselves may seem inconsequential, but together form a gaping hole in the core of their bill. One of the flaws which appears most prominent is that of vagueness. Under Section 3A, subsection 2, it states that the department shall promulgate rules governing safety. In the following subsections, there are many occurrences of vagueness, such as vagueness of manufacturing standards, environment, and even the cleanliness of the box. First of all, it states that sanitation standards will be required, yet it fails to mention what the cleaning methods will be. Do we really want our newborns to be inside boxes with unknown levels of dust and disease? Not only that, but it also states in the bill that there must be a controlled environment. Yet again, any further explanation is completely vague. Is it too much to ask for clarification? It doesn't stop there. Even the standards required of the people who are supposed to create these boxes to be safe and secure for the abandoned newborns are unspecific, unclear, and completely unstable. How can we trust putting these small, fragile infants in boxes of unknown disease, danger, and dilapidation? Whether you agree with the sentiments of their bill or not, we can all agree that it can be, should be, and needs to be more clear and clarified for the sake of our newborns. Vote no on Bill 5751. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. The sponsors may now present rebuttal arguments. Representative Adams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Representative Will Ammons of Amherst. Dead babies. It's not a pretty picture, is it? Dead babies because a mother didn't want to personally hand her infant over to another person face to face. Dead babies because the available legal ways to abandon an infant didn't accommodate the mother's needs. In Indiana, newborn safety devices have saved over 200 lives. If this bill were to be passed in Michigan and it saved even half that number, wouldn't it still be worth it? The opposing side has argued that the climate and sanitation of these devices, or supposed lack thereof, could pose a danger to the infant. This argument, however, is wrong, because the same healthcare officials who clean and control the devices are the ones who keep hospitals up to sanitary standards. They also argue that 28 days isn't enough to find a non-surrendering parent. But isn't it better that the child stay in the care of the state than with a parent who doesn't want them? Additionally, the committee arguing against me points out that parents can't live with their decision. This is invalid, because wouldn't it be better for the child to be with the state than with a damaged parent, with a parent who is suffering from physical trauma? In closing, this bill provides an essential avenue for mothers to anonymously give their child over to the care of the state and foster homes. Even if these devices save one infant life, isn't it worth passing this bill? Or does the inconvenience to the state outweigh the value of human life? When questioning the opposing team's lobbyists, the man attacking my bill, he said, and I quote, "I'm not really entirely opposed to these baby boxes. If they save a few lives, it's worth it." Even those opposed to this bill agree that if the devices can save lives, they're worth implementing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope that you will vote in favor of saving infant lives with the newborn safety devices.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Debate is now open for supporting and opposing arguments from the other caucuses. Representatives Ryatsky and Representative Connor, please make your way to the nearest microphones. Representative Ryatsky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to oppose
oppose Bill 5751. Bill number 5751 should not be passed because baby boxes cause danger to the infants and danger to the mothers. Not only that, but the bill itself does not specify even the most important sections. This bill will only do harm to the race in the infants. Vote no on Bill 5751. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Connor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm speaking on behalf of Adams Green. If the newborn safety devices can save even one life, isn't that enough to end? This bill gives the opportunity to save infants, give an alternative to abortion, and provide solace to parents who can't raise their children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope that you all will vote in favor of this bill and ultimately saving infant lives.
Thank you, Representative Connor. You may be seated.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The bill is now on third reading. All those in favor of passing the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. All those opposed to the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? Thank you. You may be seated. The clerk will give the count.
Mr. Speaker, we have 31 yes votes, 14 no votes, and 1 abstention.
The bill receiving a sufficient number of votes is passed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up item number 5 on the calendar, House Bill 4162.
Clerk will read.
Thank you. House Bill number 4162, a bill to amend 1976 PA 451 entitled The Revised School Code, People of the State of Michigan and
The bill is now open for debate. Sponsors of the bill may present their opening arguments. Representatives Austin, Young, Sheep, and Goki, please make your way to the nearest microphones. Representative Austin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support House Bill 4162 to endorse this bill because we need to support our children. Our children are struggling to continue their academics. Their emotional state is dwindling, all because schools have not put in place the appropriate measures to ensure the safety and well-being of our children. Our schools have not taken the precautions as they should be to keep our children safe. We as a government are making a minimum baseline for public schools to keep our children out of harm's way. This is not government overreach because the schools are government owned. Since they do not have a policy in place, it would provide one for them until they do. This bill would provide a baseline policy for schools without one. You should vote yes to save kids' lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Young, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, Representative Zalian, rise in favor of House Bill 4162, entitled Prohibit Bullying. Bullying kills people, plain and simple. Matthew Epping was a talented and loved 14-year-old that attended McDonald Middle School. Matthew was attending the Welcome to High School hazing on 8th grade graduating day when he was assaulted by a local high school student. 40 days after he was assaulted, he decided to end his own life. This tragedy is sadly one of many results of bullying. Wyatt ignored this bill and did nothing about the plague hiding in our schools. This bill would be the next step towards eliminating bullying. Some ways this bill helps decrease bullying is by making government school without a bullying policy adopt one into the school district or school. The contents of the policy is up to the school but must contain certain regulations. That is why I stand with House Bill 4162. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vote yes to House Bill 4162.
Thank you, Representative Young. You may be seated. Representative Sheep, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, Representative Sheep, support House Bill 4162. Bullying is a worldwide problem. It is one of the biggest causes of depression, suicide, and school shootings. The bullying also causes a decrease in the study and learning of the student. Negative effects are anxiety, depression, risk of substance abuse, and social isolation. These symptoms are dangerous to the pupil. Oakland Schools, Michigan noticed that 1 out of 5 students were being bullied. This amount of bullying is known to cause stress, poor self-esteem, and more, according to the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. The issue of bullying is damaging others every single day, and it must be stopped. What does House Bill 4162 then do? The bill requires school officials to join with parents and law enforcement to implement the policy. Formation of a bullying prevention force and other initiatives will be included. The school districts will be required to provide training and develop a process to talk with students about the policy. This will all decrease the magnitude and scope of bullying and save the lives of many victims. House Bill 4162 shall work to solve the cause of depression, suicide, and school shootings. Based on my testimony and evidence, I urge my esteemed colleagues to pass this piece of legislation. Remember to vote yes on Bill 4162. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Yeah.
Representative Gilkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, Representative Gilkey, support House Bill 4162 to prohibit bullying. Bullying is not good at all. Bullying can affect the student's learning process, make them commit suicide, or even make them engage in a school shooting. Our House Bill is going to stop kids from getting bullied. We can talk with the bullies so they don't get expelled or suspended. If this bill passes, kids that were bullied will do better in school because bullies won't bully them anymore. This bill could help all the students who have been or have suffered from bullying in the past. Vote yes on House Bill 4162 so we can help kids who have suffered from bullying. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. The opposing caucus may now present opposing arguments. Representatives Byrne, Evans, Esper, and Handy, please find your way to the nearest microphone. Representative Byrne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I am in opposition of House Bill 4162, which is prohibit bullying. Now, I will be talking about the idea of bringing in law enforcement. Now, obviously, I do not whatsoever support bullying in any way, shape, or form. But I also believe bringing in the law enforcement into this is unreasonable. There are already in the vast majority of schools an anti-bullying policy. I am all for bringing more attention to bullying, such as having teachers, board members, and parents, if they witness bullying, that be required to report it. But there are ways to reduce bullying drastically without cost, such as figuring out if there is something happening or something happens to them in their life. Then working accordingly to help them. But there are people who are just not going to change. But even then, I believe everyone has a chance to change and might just change. And that is why I am in opposition of House Bill 4162 and think you should vote against it.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Evans, you have the floor.
I believe that this bill will do a little.
Please acknowledge the speaker.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry.
Thank you. You may continue. I'll reset the time.
I believe that this bill will do a little, but make it the lives worker for all students. It's like in the opening story, a simple insult all managed to make him commit suicide. Well, that
have been a serious case of bullying. How are we meant to police? Are we meant to police every single action that they say? Bullying is a fundamental problem with schools, and this bill will be belittled. Second off, the definition of what they call bullying can be very vague. For one, and it says in their definition that at significant interference in a person in another student. This could apply to many, or also another one being a major trauma, like inducing trauma for one's benefit. These could apply to other things other than what would be called bullying. Such as someone inviting them for a birthday party, but that student and getting under emotional stress because they are trying to get them a gift in time. Or two kids playing around and causing a less educational overload. Representative, your time has expired. Thank you for letting me speak, and this is why I urge you to vote against House Bill 4162.
Thank you, Representative Evans. You may be seated. Representative Esper, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in front of you to speak against House Bill 4162. If I may speak frankly, I believe that this bill will not do much for our current school systems. As in every place and community, there are evil people in this world who want to do us harm. Whether it be verbal, physically, or online, actions and words hurt. But I do not think that this bill appropriately addresses the issue of bullying at hand. Simply forcing or requiring a school to develop a policy that is anti-bullying is not enough. I also believe that trying to involve law enforcement in situations that can be handled by school staff is extremely unnecessary. School issues should be solved by the school itself. The government should not have to take the reins on issues like these. Local issues are best solved by those who know the local system best. Taking measures such as involving law enforcement will only distract students from learning and will likely lead to more violence and retaliation. Furthermore, these officials didn't sign up for their job to mediate peer-to-peer badgering. Bullying is a frequent event, and requiring law officials to show up to these schools is excessive, especially when these officers could be doing their given duty, which is defeating crime and upholding the law, not meddling in student affairs. Mr. Speaker and Representatives, the answer is clear. House Bill 4162 is not necessary for our schools to function. Do not hear me wrong. I am not supporting bullying. I am simply opposing the solution that House Bill 4162 is proposing. Representatives, I hope and trust you all will make the obvious choice and vote against House Bill 4162. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Handy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are here today to decide whether this bill will be the best for our children. Most of us understand how bullying is a huge problem today in our society. Bullying can leave lasting effects on the victims and the bullies. These effects take years to recover from, if they are recovered from at all. Clearly, we do not support bullying as a whole. But there are many better ways to fix this problem. As an example, in history, many times there have been laws that have been made that restricts or bans. More times than not, that results in an underground market of sorts. If this law were passed, I think it is possible that bullying would go underground, for lack of a better term, and bullies would hide what they are doing, and it would then be harder to figure out who is being bullied and by whom. Therefore, this law would be ineffective. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you not to vote for this to go into place. Instead, we can save our children and not vote for this law by urging teachers and parents to help bullies, to guide them into changing their ways and to make our society better without this law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Handy. You may be seated. The sponsors may now present rebuttal arguments. Representatives Grass and Emerson, please make your way to the nearest microphone. Representative Grass, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am here supporting a House bill titled Prohibiting Bullying. Some may say that this bill was poorly wrote and does not specifically state harassment and bullying. But in the bill, it clearly states that the school's policies must specifically state what bullying is. Some may say that this bill is government overreach, but it is obviously not, because government owns the schools, runs the schools, helps the schools. Law enforcement will not be completely enforcing this bill, as teachers and parents are already asked to help inside the bill. Volunteers are also asked to help bullying and decrease the bullying. 30% of students inside of schools are bullied every year. With this bill, we can help decrease suicides, school shootings, and bullying, which would make our students essentially smarter because it's decreasing rate.
Representative, your time has expired.
I, Representative Grass, ask my fellow caucus members and fellow representatives to vote for House Bill 4162. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Grass. You may be seated. Representative Emerson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of our opposing caucus members have stated that bullying is a fundamental problem. And while I do agree with this, I also agree and state that though bullying is a fundamental problem, we should take any steps we can to prohibit bullying to the best of our ability. Government overreach is not an issue in this case because public schools are all that would be affected by this bill unless private schools would adapt the policies for themselves. The bill does not specifically state the policies and allows schools to make policies for themselves so that they can best adapt it to their students and their area and those who know it best. This would allow schools to help prohibit bullying without there being laws that would not apply well to their school. I encourage all of my fellow caucus members and representatives of the House to vote yes on this bill and help stop one of the biggest problems of social and emotional consequences in our schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Emerson. You may have a seat. Debate is now open for supporting and opposing arguments from other caucuses. Representatives Ryansky and Connor, please make your way to the nearest microphones. Representative Ryansky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking as a member from a different caucus, I agree with Jefferson Blue's opposition to House Bill number 4162. Although it has good intentions, I believe the bill would be ineffective. If anything, it would create more controversy. This bill does not provide the hands-on action taking solution we need to put an end to bullying. It is not getting to the real root of the problem.
Representative, your time has expired.
Vote against Bill number 4162. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ryansky. Representative Connor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As everyone has experienced bullying in some way, we know its effects. This bill provides a solution to problems happening all across the state of Michigan. This bill can stop the major portion of bullying and harassment affecting children in government educational facilities. This bill will help all students feel safe and included. I'm Representative Connor with Washington Green, and we should all promote this bill and vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Connor. You may be seated.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The bill is now on third reading. All those in favor of passing the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. All those opposed to the bill, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? Please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. The clerk will give the count.
Sorry. Mr. Speaker, there are 20 yes votes, 25 no votes, 1 abstention.
The bill receiving an insufficient number of votes is not passed.
I move that the House will stand to recess at the call of the chair.
Without objection, we will take a brief recess. Representatives, this is your 5-minute warning, 5 more breaks, 5 more minutes of break. Reminder for guests in the gallery, please do not lean on the railing and please be seated well in the gallery.
Wait, Paulette, sorry. Minus P-U-R-I. Yes. Imagine Scarlet looking like that guy. Yeah, give Scarlet his hair. Give her. You worked yesterday? Yeah, you worked yesterday. Why is that actually kind of weird though? It's literally me though. Wait, hold on. Wait, it's the real Representative Wilson. Oh, look! Literally, on that name, on that desk right there. Down. Look down. No, not this one. Not the row, that row. But go after. Look. It's Representative Wilson. Give up this chapter there.
The House will come to order. Representatives, please make your way to your seats. Guests in the gallery, please be seated. The Speaker recognizes the Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up item number 6 on the calendar, Senate Bill 98.
The Clerk will read.
Senate Bill number 98, a bill to provide compensation and other relief for individuals wrongfully imprisoned for crimes the people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill is now open for debate. The sponsors of the bill may present opening arguments. Representatives Ryatsky and Clark, please make your way to the nearest microphone. Representative Ryatsky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am here emphatically supporting Senate Bill 98, also called the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act. Just imagine your humble home, your amazing job, and even your essential freedoms taken away. And not even for a right and logical reason, but for an inaccurate, inexact, and invalid one. People are wrongfully imprisoned. This is a fact. When it has finally been discovered that the plaintiff was wrongfully imprisoned, they are released. But with what? What can we do to help right this wrong? This bill we are proposing, Senate Bill 98, says that we, the government, should provide compensation up to $60,000 for each year of imprisonment. There are many problems this bill will solve. One of them being the injustice of being wrongfully imprisoned, being taken away from your money-providing job. It also deals with the financial instability of being recently free from prison. This bill also helps people to start re-trusting the government after being wrongfully imprisoned. To not accept this bill is to violate American ideals. Justice is one of these ideals. Justice is trying to right the wrong committed. The compensation may not be completely equal to what the plaintiff was previously earning, but it provides stability and a fair amount of justice. This government took their time, money, and relationships. We at least owe them compensation for this injustice. Before my colleague takes the mic, I would like to end with this scripture. Romans 12:21. Do not let evil overcome you, but overcome evil by doing good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vote yes on the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Clark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am grateful to be able to speak in support of Bill 98, or the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Bill. My fellow representative spoke about a serious problem: citizens being wrongfully imprisoned without any guaranteed compensation. These individuals have been taken away from their relationships, jobs, and many other opportunities because of something they didn't even do. Prior to this bill, these citizens had and will still have an opportunity to spend a lot of money to sue the government, which has no guarantee of success. If this bill passes, plaintiffs can receive up to $60,000 for every year that they were incarcerated, depending on their wages before they were imprisoned. This money could also go to paying for criminal defense and some attorney fees. While the plaintiffs can still sue the government if they choose to, this bill presents a guaranteed way for the plaintiffs to be compensated. Another problem this bill will fix is how wrongful imprisonment goes against some of America's core beliefs. Our founding fathers passed down beliefs of liberty and justice, which this bill continues to uphold by trying to compensate these individuals for their lost wages. And while my caucus and I fully understand that no amount of money can replace the time and relationships that the plaintiffs have lost, we firmly believe that it is the government's duty to try and compensate them, even if we can never fully make up for it. The opposing caucus may argue that just because our bill isn't perfect, it shouldn't be passed. However, our bill can still help the way it is intended to, even if it isn't perfect, like how the Constitution is still completing its purpose, even if it needed to be amended over time.
In conclusion, I implore all of my fellow representatives to vote yes on Senate Bill 98 to help people who have had their lives taken away from them. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. The opposing caucus may now present opposing arguments. Representatives Perez, Saylor, Schnee, Umberger, Flory, and Miller, please make your way to the nearest microphone. Representative Perez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand before you to voice strong opposition to the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act. Though it is well-intentioned, this act falls extremely short in addressing the root causes of wrongful convictions. It offers compensation, but fails to prevent tragic errors that lead to innocent people to be imprisoned in the first place. This act diverts attention from the necessary reforms our judicial system desperately needs, such as better legal representation and more rigorous evidence. If this bill were to pass, the only thing it would be helping is the government by preventing the wrongful imprisoned from suing. Moreover, no amount of money can truly compensate for the loss of freedom. Instead of settling for a Band-Aid solution, we should be demanding comprehensive changes that ensure such injustices do not occur. Passing this act would be an acceptance of a broken system. Let's reject this act and focus on meaningful reforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Saylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored to share my belief with the legislature. Bill 98 has great potential. My team and myself believe that the wrongfully convicted deserve compensation for their time. But this bill does not serve its purpose well. First, let me inform you that without this bill, you can still sue the state or subsection of it for wrongful conviction. This bill tremendously hurts anyone who makes above $60,000 yearly, as they would only get a fraction of their potential wages back for time which can never be refunded. Those who pay child support are legally required to pay for that debt which they cannot while in prison. I'm sure all the parents in here are aware of how expensive children can be. This bill also limits the potential one could earn from a wrongful imprisonment conviction. According to BBC.com, Henry McCollum and his half-brother, Leon Brown, were accused for murder and sexual assault, and they served 31 years each. They sued for wrongful conviction and earned $75 million. If they applied for this wrongful conviction compensation bill, they would only receive 3.7, nearly 1/20 of their real earnings. So if you support the wrongfully convicted earning full compensation and possibly extra for unrefundable time, you oppose this bill. So vote nay for Senate Bill 98. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Schnee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My opponents and their lobbyists have stated that in their bill, you may be compensated up to $60,000 a year, but not for under a year. Their lobbyist states that cases under a year are irregular and unimportant. People's lives matter, and those with short sentences, and even those with short sentences should be compensated too. And to add to that, this bill does not allow heirs of the wrongfully convicted to be compensated if they are deceased and later found innocent. This is completely unfair to families of the deceased. They are missing a member of their family and now a main source of income from which their family may have benefited from if they were still with us. And even if they receive compensation, the range on the monetary quantity is not variable enough for everyone between mid and high range paid employees. After pointing out these deficits in Washington Green's bill, I urge you to listen to my fellow colleagues' stances and statistics on the wrongful imprisonment compensation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Umberger, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am speaking in opposition of SB 98. This bill is trying to lower the number of people the government has to compensate for wrongful imprisonment in many ways. One of these ways is that people who plead guilty or no contest are not eligible for compensation under this bill. In some legal situations, it makes sense, and your lawyer may advise you to plead guilty even if you are innocent to receive a shorter sentence. This clause of the bill will lower the number of eligible citizens who can be compensated under this act. Another way that the government is trying to avoid compensating wrongfully imprisoned citizens is by requiring flawless evidence before granting compensation. The flawless evidence must be DNA or equally reliable physical or scientific evidence. This is extremely hard to obtain. According to the Cooley Law School, only 3 individuals have been extorted since 2001 with DNA evidence. By creating a hard-to-obtain criteria to qualify for compensation under this bill, the Michigan government is trying to get out of paying money to wrongfully imprisoned citizens deserve. Vote no to SB 98 and give wrongfully imprisoned individuals what they deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Fleury, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow representatives, this bill claims to be the solution for the compensation of wrongfully imprisoned citizens. So let me pose a question to you. Would you rather pass a bill that is a work in progress or a bill that actually supports the people who have been wronged by the government? With this bill, the government can conveniently convince citizens to settle for less than what they deserve. In addition, there are already alternative ways to receive compensation outside of this bill. Many wrongfully imprisoned citizens have successfully sued or settled for more money than this bill provides. For instance, in the case of Henry McCollum and his half-brother Leon Brown, they were awarded a compensation of $75 million after being incarcerated for over 3 decades, as my fellow representative stated. All of this shows that the bill is not effective or thoroughly thought out and should not be passed. If you actually care that these individuals receive the compensations they truly deserve, vote against Senate Bill 98. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. Representative Miller, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to remind you that my caucus and I fully support the concept of compensating individuals who are wrongfully incarcerated. We agree with our counterparts Washington Green that this is a considerable problem that requires a solution. However, this bill does not address all of the sections of this problem. Additionally, this bill does not provide nearly enough compensation, especially considering the previous cases stated by my fellow caucus members. Furthermore, this bill is an attempt to persuade wrongfully imprisoned citizens not to sue the government for all the money that they rightfully deserve. After all of the compelling arguments that my fellow representatives have voiced, we urge you to vote against Senate Bill 98, the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. You may be seated. The sponsors may now present rebuttal arguments. Representatives Gopi and Connor, please make your way to the nearest microphone. Representative Gopi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My opponents state that this bill falls short of the root causes and diverts attention from the fact that there is limited amounts of representation and extreme amounts of evidence required. Is there no reason that we can pass this act and then pass more bills that would improve on our justice system? I believe that there is a universe, physically this one, that both of those things can be true. And they say that this is a band-aid solution and that the government is trying to coerce their people into settling for less money. This bill nowhere states that the person has to accept this compensation, and it does state that they still have the opportunity to sue the government for more money if they refuse it. So I do believe that while there may be things that this bill could have added onto it, much like the Constitution, it is still very good where it is. I urge.
Your time has expired.
Okay. I urge that my fellow colleagues and representatives vote yea on Senate Bill 98, the Wrongful Imprisonment Compensation Act.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Connor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Presenting this specific bill, it is not meant to stop wrongful conviction. This bill is merely broadening the opportunities for one to be able to receive compensation and does not take away or prohibit the person from receiving other kinds of compensation. This bill is not intended to get the person, per se, rich, but is intended as a stepping stone of opportunity for them to rebuild their life to what it could have been or what it was. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. The floor is now open for debate from other members. Representative Brightsky and Glasgow, please. Representative?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bill 98 is like hush money. It pays off the victims to keep them quiet instead of fixing the real problems in our justice system. This bill will allow the state to avoid taking responsibility and making necessary changes. We need to focus on real justice and fixing the system, not just handing out money. We need to prevent these injustices from happening. I urge you to vote nay for Bill 98.
Thank you, Representative. Representative, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join Washington Green to sponsor Bill 98. This bill solves many problems, including the financial instability of the recently released, promoting the American ideal of justice, and it builds trust with the government. Washington Green has refuted every substantial argument from the opposing caucus. Therefore, I urge you to join me and Washington Green to vote yes on Senate Bill 98. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The bill is now on third reading. All those in favor of passing this legislation, please rise. You may be seated. All those opposed, please rise. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? Thank you. You may be seated. The clerk will give the count.
Mr. Speaker, there are 23 yes votes, 19 no votes, 5 abstentions.
The bill, receiving an insufficient number of votes, is not adopted. Insufficient by 1. Well done. That is our final bill. Ladies and gentlemen, do I have anyone who would like to object to that last vote and ask for a recount? Representative Connor. All right, a record roll call vote is required. We will tally the votes again. All those in favor of the legislation, please rise. You may be seated. All those opposed, please rise. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? You may be seated. Members, I apologize. We are going to vote one last time. Please, we're going to do this slightly differently this time. If you are in favor of the legislation, please rise and raise your hand. You may be seated. All those opposed, please rise and raise your hands. You may be seated. Are there any abstentions? Please rise and raise your hands. You may be seated. The clerk. Yes. Yes, that is within their right. I understand that has happened. Some members have changed their votes between votes. That is not helpful for checking the count, but it apparently has happened. However, we do have a vote which tallies to the same number as the amount of members present today, and the clerk will tally, display, and announce that vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are 27 yes votes, 17 no votes, 2 abstentions.
The bill receiving a sufficient number of votes is adopted. Members, applause is welcomed and encouraged. Chanting is not appropriate for the House floor. Thank you. But I appreciate the enthusiasm. Thank you all for your patience. I hope you know that we counted very, very thoroughly for your sake. The third time at least. So, thank you guys. Well done. That is our last bill. That's it. Congratulations, you did it. I'd like to invite all our guests in the gallery to join us back at Spring Arbor University this afternoon for our closing ceremony at White Auditorium. You'd be more than welcome to join us. It will happen just an hour before you pick up your students. But students, well done. Again, these are real bills that affect real people and address real problems, and you did the real work this week. Well done. You should be proud. I'm going to give some brief announcements, and then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Firstly, please put your name tags back on. Okay. Secondly, that name tag, that white piece of paper with your last name on it, you can take that. Representative Ammons, you can take that home, tape it beneath your mirror, and every morning get up and Representative Ammons, ready to seize the day. All right. As a reminder, maybe show it to your grandkids and say, "Well, I did something once." Guys, well done. Well done. Please remember, we treat this building like a national park. You take nothing but pictures, and you leave nothing but footsteps. And if you left footsteps, you did something wrong. All right? No trash, no tidbits of paper or eraser markings. We leave the building at least as good as we found it. Please make sure your seats are tucked in. All right? If you'd like to take just a moment and take a lead note card out of your binder if you have one and write a note just saying thank you to the representative who sits at this desk normally, you're welcome to do that. I'd ask that you do it quickly. All right, we're going to then dismiss to do a quick bathroom break, and we're going to gather in committees and hit the road. But before I let you do that work, okay, I recommend if you have the white note cards, the lead note cards, that you use those. You'll do all that once we adjourn. After that, we'll give announcements from the mic for gathering in committees and heading down to the bus. You guys will then be able to head back to Spring Arbor, and you're probably going to have time to change.